Welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston. Join Dr. Pinkston today as she teaches you how an integrative approach to health, combining holistic and contemporary medical information, can lead you to the better life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. I am Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston, and back with a great episode today because everybody wants to lose weight, right? And it's such a difficult thing to do these days. I think in the past, we were able to just drop our calories a little bit, start a walking program, things would start falling off. We were feeling pretty good. These days, it's just not the same, and there is a reason for that. So I am going to bring you somebody that I love and care for very deeply and very honored to have on because she's one of the smartest nutritionists I have ever met. She does it the right way. No following those FDA, little pyramids and RDA pyramids and whatnot. But Laura Laval, welcome. I am so glad to have you on. Good morning.
Good morning, Mary Ann. Thank you for having me again. I was really looking forward to this.
Absolutely.
I enjoy being on with you.
This is a repeat session. You have been on before. We had a great show, but I wanted you back on again so we could extend our conversation a little bit, give some people, some tools that they can actually use, because I know we're all, worried about the holidays coming up and carrying those extra pounds, and then we'll hit the new year and everybody wants to drop them then. So how are we going to survive all this? I think the meta-inflammation is what is happening to us. So if I set the stage and you can kind of complete this, we are, as a nation, as a world, I guess, even now, but as a nation, we are changed. Our foods, supplies have changed. Our foods are industrialized. Wheat and corn is now genetically modified. It's more inflammatory. We have processed foods and sugars, lots of foods of convenience. Plus, we have a ton more stress than we used to, a ton more exposures environmentally. So we are different than we were, say, in the 80s even, or in before, where our grandparents could eat the same stuff we think we're eating now and be healthy, but that is not the way our bodies are. Can you explain meta-inflammation from your nutritionist point of view?
Yeah, and there's a lot of environmental. In fact, it's one of the points that we need to make sure we discuss, and I guess I can mention it right now. Organic foods help an awful lot in our experience, and I hate that because I know organic foods are more expensive.
Can be.
But to the extent that people can afford it, it really helps because there are two main categories of food pesticides that are used they're the main, what they use to control, insects and
weeds and
fungal, the weeds and things. So they get on our foods, and that's why it's important to try and wash your food, but you really can't get all that coating of those pesticides off because they make them to be resistant to rain. So just rinsing them with water, you have to wash them with like that Fit, food spray or something like that. But even that, it doesn't take care of all of it because it penetrates through the peeling, the skin, and gets actually into the food. So I recommend the Environmental Working Group website. They have
EWG.org.
Dirty Dozen and Clean 15, and that helps save money. I use that because if I don't have to buy organic asparagus, for example, because it's not a highly sprayed crop this year, then that saves money. It saves a lot of money. So that's a helpful tool. But that's exactly it. I've seen the same thing, Mary Ann, as a dietitian. We used to do these ADA diets for people for weight loss and for diabetes management. And we pick a calorie level and we divvy up the calories between the proteins, fats, and carbs. And we give them so many servings from each food group, per day. And it was actually a pretty easy tool. It was what the Richard Simmons Deal a Meal was based off of, But I didn't have to go down to these lower calorie levels to get people to lose weight. Just something moderate, 2,000 calories for women, maybe sometimes 1,800, and they would still lose weight. And not today. And the problem with going down to the lower, even lower calorie levels is that has side effects, where one of the horrible side effects of going too low chronically on calories is we lose lean mass, they've found. So our muscle and even our bone will lose because it switches us into a really catabolic, but not in a good way state. And it depends on the composition of your meals. If they're fairly high carb, but low calorie, then you might not even lose that much fat. Yeah. And that's the horrible thing about it. So yeah, things have changed. Things have definitely changed.
Yes, they have. And so with that inflammation, when you go to your physician and you get your, laboratory done, I know a lot of physicians don't do the right type of laboratory, but what I do is something very extensive, and I look at your hemoglobin A1C, which is a marker of are you diabetic, are you not? Just looking at their fasting glucose, looking at your insulin levels, looking at your triglycerides. There are so many things that you can look at that may not put you into a diagnosis category, through some algorithm says, if you are A, B, C equal diabetes. We can find that inflammatory component in you way before you have diabetes, like pre-diabetes. And
that's the thing I have a hard time convincing people of still, even though you're sitting here as a medical professional with almost 30 years experience now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have very large studies on that showing that long before you become a person with diabetes, you will have all that inflammatory response from those elevated blood sugars creating damage in your system.
Absolutely.
And, I know people care about not going blind, and I know people care about not going into kidney failure. But I don't know. It's still just sometimes I think part of the issue is not enough practitioners, conventional medical practitioners. We don't, well, that's it, because they think they see a blood glucose of 90 and
think it's normal.
It's okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Well, when actually the studies show that for every 1% over 85, you will have a 6% increased chance of developing diabetes over the next 10 years. So, 6, 12, 18, 24, that's 30% increased risk, even at a blood glucose of 90, So it's, if we can get that down, we try to, because it's important for the health of our tissue and for trying to be preventive of diabetes long before, because usually, I don't know what you see, but a lot of people are told, even at 100, they're not really diabetic yet. They're told, maybe they'll be told pre-diabetes.
Maybe.
And so that doesn't sound like anything too bad. But boy, you get up to 100 on your blood glucose, you're an inflammation machine.
You really are. And that
big sources of metaflammation is our response to, the high glycemic foods in our diet.
All right. And that is absolutely key. And people need to understand, no, you may not be diabetic now, but just that shining potential that I see underneath is driving this problem of weight gain for you. So people get a new set point. So I'll give you me, for instance. When I gained, everybody knows I had gained up to 300 pounds at one point. My body likes to be about 145, fairly muscular, and I like to be about 145. And once I started that, and I would gain up, let me back up, I would gain up to about, 160 or so, but I could turn it around and lose fairly easily and just go back and forth and back and forth.
And you're taller too, so.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, I carry it. I carry it fine. But what happened was my body developed, after it became inflamed, I developed a new set point. So my new set point hit 225. So I would try to lose to 225 and my body wouldn't go any further because of all the inflammation inflammation. And then I would turn around and gain right back up higher and keep dropping, but I could never get past that set point. So what I want people to understand is everybody, when you are inflamed, you have a new set point. That's why you can't get below it any further, get back to your old college weight. Your body inflamed has that new set point.
That's right.
So how do we kick, people are like, well, I'll just diet and exercise and I'll start losing. No, if people come to me all the time and say, I've been working on this 3 to 6 months and I can't lose anything, it's because of that inflammation. So how do people turn it around? How do we hit that inflammatory effect with the higher sugars and the higher triglycerides and get past it in order to start the weight loss cycle again?
Okay. Yeah. So I think, and I gave you some slides, and we might be able to show those.
I'll have those on the website. I'll put them on the website. Absolutely.
And on the website.
Yes.
But I think one of the things that people always think about with lowering inflammation is they think eat more fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. And, that's a good place to start. Mm-hmm. It is actually a good place to start. If you're not eating very many fruits and vegetables per day now, that's one of the big things that you can just quickly go, okay, I have got to get on this. And so that means big salads. It means, and primarily vegetables, because within that little eat more fruits and vegetables, there is a little caveat, and that is with fruits being sweeter. You were saying what we have today, our conditions are different. Well, with fruits, they're bred to the way they develop them now.
Juicier, sweeter.
Them to contain more sugar content and be sweeter when we take that first bite or eat that first grape. And those sugars are a problem. Right. They create too much blood sugar coursing through the bloodstream, even though they're natural sugars. Fruit is a particular blend of the sugars where it's higher in fructose, and fructose has some bad things that it can do in our chemistry. It can become more where it causes our body to make more cholesterol and lipids, and it also turns off on appetite. So that's one of the big things that's a problem with children is like the fruit roll-ups that are, even though it's fruit, that they're very high in fructose. Mm-hmm. They become where you lose some appetite control, and they make us gain weight and they make lipids go up. So you really, and I hate to tell people, even a natural food, you have to be careful, but you really do. Sure. And I have had people eating 7, 8, 9, 10 servings of fruit a day, sometimes almost in one fell swoop. I was in an office, a while back, and people that worked there were getting their lunch. And one of the people just got out this big bowl of fruit. And I mean, it was huge. And that was lunch. Yeah. And I was like, wow, not counterbalanced with any proteins or fats or anything. That's on a regular basis. If you did that once in a while, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But if that's kind of how you're eating because you think it's going to be healthy and you love fruit, I do have to, caution people, watch fruit.
So I tell people vegetables are free. You can do the vegetable side. If you do the fruits, stay in the berries and, the peas, corn, carrots, potatoes, breads, pastas. Those are the things I generally tell people to do a lot less of. And also I include like bananas and things like that, very starchy. But if you can stay more in the berries and the more complex and then really hammer the vegetables, I think that is really good too.
On our diet materials, we give people a list of the fruits, and we use it's the diabetes exchanges because that's a good way to get an idea of quantity. If you have grapes, for example, it only takes, with the larger grapes that you find most of the time in the stores today, it only takes about 8 grapes to get 15 grams of carb. Wow. 15 grams is what?
Not a handful.
Considered serving. Yeah, so it's literally.
Don't tear off the thing and eat the little strands of grapes. That's just 15 or 15 grapes. Ringing. Yeah.
But you can have like a whole 1.5 cups of watermelon to get 15 grams of carbs. So that's a big difference from this little.
Right. So look at your portion sizes. That's
portion size. So it's the same with like on a banana, a large banana is about 30 grams. So that's
Half.
higher carb.
Half,
That's why
right.
people are, but I have a high protein cereal, high protein, low carb that I use sometimes I eat for breakfast. Sometimes I like a little bit of banana on it. So I cut it in half and it tastes good.
As
And you
long
get
as-
variety and you get bananas are a great source of potassium and other nutrients. If you eat them slightly green, they're high in resistant starch.
Very good for you.
So and what I found was when people just got to eating berries all the time, because and we're going to get to this, we've got the gut health issue affecting so many people. When they ate a lot of berries, they could end up becoming reactive to them because that's all they were eating for a fruit. So variety and switching it up and rotating foods can be helpful. So sometimes it helps having that portion size information. And if any of your listeners want to look it up, you just look up diabetes food exchanges and get your fruit list and you've got the information.
Exactly.
For any fruit you would want, what's the amount to equal that 15 grams of carb, which is, we use a method called carb counting to help people manage their high glycemic foods. So, a half a banana would be one carb serving for your day. And you try and figure out what your tolerance is,
Well, and we're going to come up on our break or for the break fairly soon, if you can believe that. It always goes so fast. But I'm going to make sure a lot of these links and things are on the website. If you have a nice little oatmeal or high protein cereal, a little recipe you want to shoot me or something, I'll put something like that. I also want to make sure that everybody knows that they can go to metaboliccode.com, and this is where you are available, and a lot of information is available, something that you and I and your great husband Jim Val and Ray Solano up in PD Labs and all, have worked on for patients to be able to see me if necessary, but if not, see Jim, see you, get full benefit of learning about their health and how to eat correctly and all. And I want us to talk about intermittent fasting and fasting mimicking on the other side of the break. If anybody
and we actually have a free carb counting tool on our website.
Great, yes, perfect.
Just put in your email and it'll get sent for free.
That's awesome. So I'll put that up there too. And the website is drpbetterlife.com. Of course, I have that branch out to Metabolic Code. I'll have all of those websites listed, but drpbetterlife.com. And so we're going to take a short break, come back on the other side and talk about that. And thank you, Laura. We'll be right back.
Fatty liver is linked to two different situations, alcohol and diabetes or obesity. In both cases, patients can have no symptoms. In the United States, and in particular, Texas, the most common cause of liver disease in general is non-alcoholic fatty liver. Again, associated with overweight, obesity, and/or diabetes. Additional risk factors include high cholesterol, high blood pressure, Hispanic ethnicity, and postmenopausal status. At Pinnacle Clinical Research, we offer a quick, non-invasive ultrasound-based screening assessment called FibroScan. This test is done at no cost to you, and we do not take insurance. The test will measure the fat and stiffness in your liver and stage your risk and development of fatty liver disease. You will meet with a provider immediately following your scan to go over your results. If you're interested in getting more information on your liver health, please call 210-982-0320 and schedule your FibroScan today. We are conveniently located in the Medical Center at 5109 Medical Drive.
Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Marianne Pinkston here, and I am talking with Laura Laval, who is a dietitian, nutritionist. You're a nutritionist.
Yes, we always went by dietitian, and then they, a lot of people don't really understand what dietitian exactly was. Like, are you in food service? So now they call them registered dietitian nutritionist because it is the only bachelor's degree in nutrition and the only way to become nationally recognized in the field of nutrition.
Which so you are, and you are also have an integrative twist, which I love because I think we get a lot deeper into whole health and real solutions based on that integrative principle. But So you were you and I were discussing just a minute ago about the fasting mimicking, and you were about to talk about some studies of heart disease. Tell me about.
Yeah, so the number one killer still in the United States, men and women, is heart disease. And so there have been very large studies done to find out what exactly is contributing to heart disease, because people are, we did too good of a job years ago when it seemed like it was cholesterol and fats in the diet that were creating this problem. And now, people still think it's just that, when in reality, what the studies have found is the number one thing creating heart disease, weight gain, inflammation is the over intake of high glycemic foods.
Right.
And it's not just the fact that they're, and that's the refined flours, white flour that makes almost, even when breads say whole grain, a lot of times it's white flour with some whole grain stuff in. They're getting better now than they used to be. But, you go to any restaurant, very few of them are serving, really good whole grain, high fiber.
Yes.
And the reason is because those types of breads are coarser, they're a little drier. Most people, they don't care for them,
Exactly. Yeah.
Now they're coming out with better ways to increase the fiber and lower the glycemic impact of those foods. But even
Just
when you do that, it's still way higher than, protein does not elevate blood sugar, very little blip on blood glucose. And that's the whole thing, is you're trying not to get these really huge spikes in your blood sugar after you eat.
Right.
So think of a sandwich, a burger, and fries. You have a little bit of protein, you have a lot of fat usually, and then you have those whatever size of bun, even if it's a smaller bun, it's about 30 grams of carb. And then even a small thing of fries is a good 30, 40 grams of carb. Mm-hmm. So think about then if you go to like some of the sandwich places and you have this huge bun and maybe you have some chips or something with it, it's just too much.
Right, it is.
You go out to dinner and you have a huge plate of pasta or a huge plate of rice with, whatever stir fry on it. You really have to learn to reduce the portion sizes on high glycemic foods and do everything you can to switch out to better options. A lot of people think wraps are better. Some of those wraps are huge.
They are.
Look up the nutrition information. There's maybe 70 grams of, carb or more in some of these wraps. So it takes a little effort. It takes, learning how to eat a new way. Instead of getting the sandwich, if you have to eat out for lunch, you eat a salad and a cup of soup or something,
Right.
A very large salad, so you can get full. But it just takes a little time, but you do learn the tricks of, kind of being real protein and vegetable centric with your meal, and then it's the little add-ons with that, healthy fats. So things like avocado,
olive oil, nuts,
olive oil-based salad dressings. Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Yes,
so that is the number one thing, is learning how to cut down that carb.
Yeah, and I'll put that on
real quick, because a lot of people usually want to know, well, how much carb should I have?
Right.
And it really takes trial and error for you to find out. So what we have people do is cut down to a baseline, maybe only eat one or two for women, high glycemic carb servings a day. So that would be like maybe one starchier food, like some crackers or something, and one fruit serving. Or if you want a little bit bigger of a portion of rice, let's say at dinner, and that's your carb for the day.
Right.
But it's a matter of learning how to eat that new lower glycemic way. So protein and vegetables, like you said, vegetables are free. The healthy fats don't make an impact on blood glucose. And that's what people have kind of learned, is you can eat much higher in fat and still lose weight. Mm-hmm. That was the shocking thing to people. But we don't want to go keto like we talked about
exactly.
before.
That's right. That's right. Carbs are not evil. It's just what carbs you're eating. And I intend to have that. I'll have some links for the diabetic exchange, also for a good glycemic index table and a little bit of an explanation there, because I think that is absolutely key. And I tell patients to stay. We've only got about 2 minutes left, but I tell patients to stay at about, your calories, don't cut them back too far. About, like you say, women about 1,800 or so, but make it about 40% protein, 40% fat, and 20% carb. Do not drop your carbs off and go low carb, but just make sure they are low on the glycemic index and mostly vegetable related. That's just a very simple start right there.
Even at 20% carb, a lot of people, if you're into keto and thinking keto is like the helpful thing, you will go in and out of ketosis even at 20% carb. That's what the studies find. So you might not be in a sustained, and really the studies also find you don't need to be in sustained ketosis to lose weight. In fact, staying up out of it, because when you go too low, you tend to become pro-inflammatory then, the very thing you're trying not to do.
Yeah.
And,
burn
so
your muscle.
Yeah. And, it's actually people a little bit higher, they found even in the 20, maybe even up nudging up toward 30% range, they have much higher ratings on there, like how they feel, like their feelings of vitality being a little bit higher.
And crave less too. Cravings are important. Yes. So, right.
Well, if you try to go that low, you're limiting even your your low glycemic vegetables. You don't want to do that. You want all the antioxidants that you can get.
Right.
So like you said, load up on those. And that's really the difference. And people go, oh, okay, I get it. So for my, let's say a dinner, I'll have 2 or 3 vegetables and a small portion of my high, starchy food, whether it's a potato, sweet potato, rice, whatever. The portion is small, and much bigger portions on your vegetables, and probably a little bigger on your protein.
Those are
as well.
easy rules that you can do. Well, we have hit the end. I always hate that because you are always a wealth of information. I need you for several hours, but you can find Laura Laval on drpbetterlife.com, which will lead you to metaboliccode.com, and we will have a lot of information for you guys there. And Laura, as always, I appreciate you coming on. You're such a wealth of knowledge. I need you to come on again with me. But thank you so much.
It's fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, everybody have a nice week. We'll see you again next week.
Have a good day.
Thank you, you too.